Hi YouTube, we're back with a Feedback Friday. We're starting this week with a piece by Declan, this Logan bust from Hera Models. He did this like blue rim light effect with a cast shadow on the neck and everything. I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's done quite well. I think there's like a couple things I'm seeing with the rim light that I think we could improve upon. But I think mostly it's quite good. I think one of the most obvious things I see here is a little just like inconsistency in the lighting. Like if hit the side of his face is in this blue light, his ear should probably also be in the blue light. I think typically you want to try and like, so there's a thing called the Fresnel effect where basically as you look at an object from the side, let's see if I can sort of show it on the desk. I don't know if it's going to be quite obvious enough, but lighting as you get to the side, you can see like that this reflects the white surface of the table sort of in the side of the this red lid here. But you can see as I get closer to parallel with the surface that it starts to get more white on the edge, right? So if you actually looked at it from the side, it wouldn't do this. Right, it wouldn't be like this, but basically is the reflection of whatever's behind it. So in this case, in Declan's case, it's this blue light. As you look at it more from the sort of the horizon, it's going to get more intensely blue. The reflection is going to be more clear. The problem here with the Fresnel effect, right? Is that it doesn't really happen in like 3D, like if you moved around the side. So it's sort of an effect that it's similar to like non-metallic, where we kind of have to just make it work sometimes, right? We can sort of exaggerate it in 3D based off the viewing angle, even though if you looked at it from the side, it wouldn't necessarily be that strong. But in any case, I think you probably want to push the blue a little bit more on the hair. This is all quite nice. I think you can actually... So another thing I'm seeing is that the cast shadow on the neck is just abruptly stops at the neck. You guys see that? If you imagine his head and neck are casting a shadow, it would probably continue like down his shoulder somehow. I don't know exactly how, but it would be very likely that his head would cast some kind of shadow across his shoulder here. So something along these lines. I don't know if that's the exact shape it would make, right? I would look to see, but yeah, it's quite likely that that would happen, and then I would probably exaggerate this shadow a little bit more. There's maybe a couple spots here where like right here, maybe I would push this shadow a little bit more, maybe push here so you get a little bit more of this rounded shape of the Adam's apple and stuff. And then, yeah, I would pull this blue light further down his neck a little bit here. Just something like that to make it a little more interesting, and maybe over his shoulder a little bit more. Whoa, what happened? Oh, cool. Procreate just decided to update in the middle of drawing, so that's fun. Thanks, iPad. Appreciate that. Very cool. Anyways, yeah, so something along these lines, right? I think would correct or make some of this light make a little more sense. Okay. Other than that, like I said, I think all this is quite good. You could maybe pull the light a little bit further around this way. Could maybe push the light a little bit like onto his eyelid a little more, maybe like on the actual eyelid, the lower eyelid. You get like a little bit of blue here or something, and then start to feather this out. And depending on what the angle is, like if it's coming up over his shoulder here, it should probably repeat a little bit on like the top of his head, so you might get a little light that comes up over the top like this. Yeah. I mean, the chest hair and stuff's all quite good. There's some like micro volumes in the neck and stuff that I don't think are quite right, but I don't want to sit here and like over correct everything. There's like some of the little muscles in the neck you could maybe exaggerate a little more if the lighting angle is just right. To create a little more interest, something like this, you could maybe like push the shadow like a little bit right here to get that shape. You might have like more shadow under in between the pecs. But overall, really nice job. Probably want a little bit more of the core shadow on the forehead, not by too much. Yeah. Overall, really good. There's some stuff here, like maybe you want to push the light in between here just a tad more. Soften that. But I think it is quite nice. One thing with the hair is like, if he's supposed to be like freshly shaved, yeah. You might want to you maybe went like a little heavy on the mustache, like if he's supposed to be more recently shaved. So you can, like the chops are growing out, but the middle section is more newly shaved. I think you may have gone a little heavy on the hair in some parts. So I think you could maybe slightly reduce it, but I think overall it's quite nice. Like these hairs here should be like really short, right? Because they're he's clearly like shaved this part of his face more recently than the mutton chops. But yeah. Cool. This is not an easy model to paint, by the way. There's a lot of like little tiny volumes in the forehead and stuff, so pretty good. So I kind of see the difference. It's not a lot, but okay. Who's next? Oh, Discord restarted too. Cool. Didn't I see that one? Oh, he updated more pictures. All right, let me get... It's too zoomed in. Whatever. All right. And now it won't let me save. Thanks. Thanks, Discord. You're the best. Just close all this stuff. Unplug. We'll relaunch Discord. Okie dokie. Okay, Sammy says, hello, Eric. I'm looking for general feedback on my work in progress Retributor Marine, which I plan to finish for SMC and Golden Demon. Well, you don't have a whole lot of time. I'm trying to depict the running charge scene from the Astartes animation. Plasma gun, I'm thinking of adding a subtle glow. Since everything is quite blue from the general lighting, the back still to do. I haven't touched the lenses yet. Painting the chapter symbol on the shoulder and general cleanup. Okay. Hi, Lexi. Hi, Murph. Hi, Vanish. Hello, everyone. Hi, Wimey. Hello, everyone. So, pretty cool. I like the little symbol. Did you sculpt that? Or did was that like a little 3D printed add-on? It's pretty neat. The Retributors are pretty cool. General thoughts. So, there's definitely some room for improvement in some areas. One of the things that really stands out to me is sort of just... I think lack of sharpness in some spots. Like, what I mean by that is, so there's some areas like this, right, where you have these are like really tiny stuff, and normally I would be like, who cares if it was not for Golden Demon or something. But when you're painting for something like that, like even this like top edge of the shoulder pad can really make the difference, especially at like this viewing angle where you really like catch the light would really catch like more on the top plane, right? Because you have a shape like this, right? This is like how the shoulder pad is shaped. This is exaggerated, but right, so it's something like this. So you're not really painting the edge here, you're painting this top plane. Okay. And it is there. And I think that can really help make the difference in some cases towards like how sharp everything looks, right? So here, right? Try and just get a little bit more, even on like the foot, right? So you have, it's the same principle here, where you have this like top plane to that edge, like this edge needs highlighting. And yeah, it can really sharpen some things here. You probably want, even though the like knee doesn't necessarily get like an edge highlight like this, it can help to separate some things a little more. There's probably some edges in here that need like a little bit more light. Just sharpening things up. The hand looks quite good. Shoulder, like arm, looks quite good. I think you could push the general light a little bit more, so you have more of this spotlighted effect, and then probably darken down some of the base some. So here, we'll do this. We'll like multiply. What the heck? They've like changed the UI. Why you guys gotta change stuff? So yeah, you can do something along like this line where it's like you darken some of this stuff down a little bit, especially since the base, to be honest, like, I mean, it's fine, but it's a little, you know, it's a little boring. And then let me delete the areas that I don't want darker, right? So you can do something like this, where you kind of vignette the base a little bit just to give a little more spotlighted effect. And then we'll tone that down slightly. So this is like a small touch that can make a pretty big difference in terms of like view, like which one, you know, like this really like kind of pulls you in a little more. And then the other thing for me would be to like actually push the light, do the exact same thing, but push the light a little bit more in some spots on the marine itself. So we'll use the airbrush again, just as like a way to bring some of this stuff up even a little bit more. So like his upper chest, the areas of focus, right? So because you're dealing with a figure that's like so gray, it's just like it's pretty monochromatic, right? So we can push some light in some areas that we want to draw attention a little bit more at like the upper areas, just to make it like a little more interesting. So you can see like the difference between this and this like pulls focus a little bit better, right? Like, so you combine, so before, and then you do these two things, and now you're really pushing the focus where you want it. Right? Can we see that, guys? Wow. Like so, pull the shadows down. Push the light on these upper parts a little bit further. The knife is probably another one that you'd want to do this a little bit more too. So something like, because it's also pretty important. So maybe something like that. Then you could play around with the plasma glow, and if I was going to do the plasma glow, I would go like, because it's basically the same color that you're dealing with, right? I would go really like saturated with it. So you're going to have just think of the areas where it's going to like get to, right? So So things like here on his shoulder, you're going to get like a bit, right? And go quite, yeah, because you're already like in this sort of green, like everything's already kind of teal, you have to use like an even more saturated teal to kind of sell this effect. So that means maybe like a little bit on his chest, a little gonna show up on his leg, on the knee, probably on the leg here. And then you're gonna get some, maybe some reflections in like the metal and stuff. On his holster too, but it looks like it's not really painted, but could do something along those lines just to create like another little effect if you want. Yeah. Yo. This is probably the part that's going to be the shiniest. Maybe even like a little bit right here. And then smooth that out. Okay, so with some glow added also. Got it. Get it. Got it. Bosh. Oh yeah, this, I saw this. Apply a color filter over this. It's too white. So this should also be like, you have like a neutral white here, but you're not using really white anywhere else. So you want the like white of this freehand to also be like blue, right? Like if your white is blue, don't use like a pure white. So use a blue gray to represent pure white. We could even put some little blue reflections on his fingers and stuff. Could give some nice like silhouetting to the hand there. But yeah, cool beans. Do they have black balls on the backpacks? Like this is supposed to be a different color, I assume. If so, good. All right. Hi, Steve. Graham, general feedback for this, if you please. Some areas are still work in progress, like eyes and some finer details. Okay. So I don't need to see the full plinth, by the way. All right. So the number one thing I'm seeing is you're not quite getting the shapes right. It's like can you guys see that this is like very linear, right? The face is like this gradient here across the face is very linear. But then if we look at the leg, right, this is quite good. The best part of the lighting on this figure is this leg right here. Like too much of the robe and stuff just doesn't feel done. It's like too flat. You're not being quite dramatic enough. So if I'm looking at like this as sort of what the lighting is, a lot of the figure to me feels like the lighting is just not getting pushed enough. You're also using the lamp here to like push this effect even more. So you're lighting it from the direction that you want it to be lit from, like you painted the lighting from. Like I can see the shadow under the base. So yeah, it's just too like linear. What I mean by that is like you need to think first and foremost about like the shape of things. Like if we were to draw a skeleton on his, or like there's a lot of little like curls and swirls and stuff on his face, but if we wanted to like really break his face down into planes, right? Like where are the planes of the face? We have one sort of here, we have one kind of up here, this one in the center, this one, right? We have this and this. Then there's like these ones on the side, the nose is kind of one, right? Then we have a sort of the cheekbone kind of thing here with another plane, right? These are kind of spherical. So you're not really considering the overall planes first, right? Like, why is there a gradient here if the top of his nose is pretty flat? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this way down so you can kind of see the plane, and then I'm going to add. And we're going to separate sort of the general shape of the face. So it's like this is lighter. You've done a pretty, like this should be lighter, this should be lighter, this. Then you're probably going to get some light here. You might catch some light like over here. You might get some light there, right? So before even considering like all the small shapes, we have to consider like the major shapes first, and then something like dark blue like you've used to kind of say like, okay, this should probably be darker. You might get some darkness sort of here as this rounds over, some here, and like the front of the nose and stuff is going to be a little darker. All right. So we want to get like the initial shape in first. Turn this off. Okay. So by getting the initial shape in, we really like make it clear what the lighting direction is. Then you start to consider like all these small swirly shapes on top. And right now, the face just like doesn't really have these like small shapes or these like bigger forms. Okay. It's sort of just one thing. or it's like you treat it as like one big object and then went straight to the swirls instead of treating it as more of a face. And then probably could push the contrast more because like I like this level of contrast here. And I don't really have that on the on Big Man, on Big Dragon Man. So you're gonna get some pretty heavy shadows as you start to work into like the smaller forms, right? It's a pretty tough model. Like I get it's not easy because it's not a very normal shape, but right, you can start to see some of the general shape of the face first and foremost. Okay, then you work smaller, big to small, guys. And the same's pretty true for the robes, right? So here you can kind of see that like there's the dark shadow on the leg, but we don't really see that elsewhere. So you probably like want to consider that parts of the robe as they move away from the light are going to be significantly darker. If the light's coming in from the top left, like the bottom right should be of these planes should be more shadowed. Like the lighting on the face is also pretty decent. Okay. And then same for all of the fangs. Like you'll get the like, why are these in such bright light when they're kind of hidden on the shadow side? Yeah, too much of this is your lamp and not enough of this is the painting. Okay. All right, so there's my recommendation. Okay, rescue can. You updated even further. Photos below. Having fun with this guy by replacing greebles with putty texture. Very much an experimental piece, which is fun and freeing. Base is not finished. We'll add some snow effects to reduce the floating foot syndrome. Any feedback is welcome. Is this Arjack? Mr. Arjack Rockfist. Thor. Definitely not Thor. I guess they could just call it, they could literally, Thor's public domain. He's only a little old. But yeah, he's clearly, Arjack's inspired by Thor. Okay. And he gave us an even newer photo. This one. So, I like sort of the beat up armor. It's pretty cool. You're doing this sort of like two-tone armor where you have like a blue and then a more grayish tone. Yeah, ooh, that's no. Don't like that, but that's okay. Go watch my reel on how to make snow. This never looks realistic to me because these like flakes are like way too big. Those would be like ice cubes, for a space marine. You know, like walking around on ice cubes, like a finer powder for snow effects. Hi Richard. Okay. I think it's pretty good. There's just like a bit of inconsistency with finish. Like the blue doesn't look as good as the gray, right? Like parts of the feet and stuff don't look as finished. Like this doesn't look as finished. Like his hand, you didn't paint the underside of the hand. I can't even see the shield to say like the inside of it, but yeah, there's like it clearly looks like you did more work on the gray parts than you did on the blue parts. Machine Spirit, thanks for the gifted tier 1. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. So yeah, the big thing for me is like just try and be a little more consistent with how much effects you do, and then or like finish you do with the blue versus the gray armor. All right, and then the next thing would be to like really start to kind of like we did with the marine earlier, is you want to really start to like consider some of these edges. And I'm going to go even brighter than that. We'll just use a white, even though I wouldn't use a pure white to do this. Just trying to show for visual effect. Like really start to, and it seems like you did a little bit, but try and start to really push some of this stuff, because these sorts of highlights and stuff that you get here are going to really help draw the attention and pull focus. Increase that level of finish more. Like this is too blurry, you know. I don't think you're probably just not using enough contrast on the metal in general. Like this is a very muddy color here, so you want to get some, push this up and try and get some contrast on this gold. A lot of people have a tendency to over highlight metallic, and then they lose all the shadows. The shadows are really important, guys. Like the dark parts of metallic is just as important as the light parts. Like we need that deep shadow color like on these rivets and stuff to make them, in order to make them feel shiny, you know. Like you see the difference between the metallics here. So yeah, I think you're not going dark enough, and you're going too desaturated with your golds or brass or whatever. The other thing people do is they tend to skip over the midtone, so they it like ends up, all the metal ends up looking very gray. Like here on this symbol, right? It's like this front plane of the rune should be quite dark, and then you should have like a mid-tone type of color for the side. Maybe if you want to go more yellow than that, you can, right? Like more yellow green. So it's about creating contrast between the planes, and then you can come in and use a bit of white at the end to like really push the reflection. It's like that might seem really simple, but you can see like when you view it from further away, like instead of looking at it, you know, like ultra zoomed in like this, so you can see that it's like, oh, okay, that's metal, right? It reads as metallic. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sirree. All right. Paul McKay. Hi, Eric. Could you give me some feedback on this 28mm hoplite, please? It's a tiny man. Photo is like super washed out. Let's look at the back. This is a very small man. Because I think the front looked pretty good. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the black levels on this. Yeah, let's move this over to where black is actually black. How about that? Wargame Spirit rating with a party of 86. Hello. Welcome in. Oh, bonjour. Bonjour. Bonjour, bonjour. Bonjour. Hi, everyone. How are you? Bienvenue. I probably said that wrong. Bienvenido in Spanish. Welcome. We're doing some feedback. How was your stream? Okay, so looking at this guy, I think the part that could be improved the most is the metallic. Because I think other parts are pretty good. I think you're not using quite enough light on your metallics. Like, you have maybe a little too much midtone. So you jump sort of from this kind of light color straight to like the pure white. So I think we need like a little bit more brassy midtones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to an add layer. And then I want to kind of consider the shape that, like, here you've got like the main light placement pretty right, but we could push this up like a little bit more. Like, this is pretty good, but maybe this needs to come down a little bit to sort of connect these two. Then like his shoulder blade here is pretty flat across. So we want to try and create some shape to this. And I don't know if this is just the sculpt, but this light doesn't really make sense, so let's get rid of it. But you kind of want to match the shapes, right? Even if it's not sculpted that way, like, try and create like the same form here between the two sides. And then, yeah, focusing more light up top. Let's move this all above. Okay, so we have a bit more light up top, and then we can hit some smaller focal areas. And remember that these need to be like kind of rounded, because even though it's metallic and you get sort of sharp edges, the back plate, right, is not really, it doesn't really have sharp edges. So we can push the light a little more like this, and then we can push the light like on this part, and try and maybe, like, you do have some pretty thick black lines. Like here you can start to create some like harder lines to create some separation. I like this sort of line you did down the middle of the back. Richard, are you trying to make French people angry right now? There's a really easy way to make French people angry. Watch this. You want to get a bunch of the French writers chatting? Italian bread is better than French bread. Say they take the bait. The troll bait. Alright, so we're gonna just darken some areas down and try and get some of these shapes a little more clear and push that light a bit more. Something might be, weird about that shape, but whatever. You should be able to see now, like, but from here to here, like, this feels more, like, there's just more light, right? It's more volumetric. think you could probably push the light on the skin a little bit more too. Try and create a little more separation on the back of the shield, but yeah, I think that my biggest tips for you would just be first thing, try and paint your dark line. Like, I like your dark lining, but try and paint your dark lines a little thinner, right? So come back with the light color and try and shrink those a little bit more. The second thing would be more like volume to the overall shape, especially when it comes to metallic. And don't be afraid to push the light a little bit more. Okay. And then you probably need some highlights on these parts too. Assuming this is also metal, you need light from the other direction. I know it's going to be like really difficult to get into some of these parts, but even just like a few little dots here and there to give the impression of a highlight can help a lot. Okay. The 40K WTC. How about the time Spain won the top 3 positions in the Kill Team WTC? I think Team Spain 1, 2, and 3 like won the top 3 spots. Okay. Hey Eric, working on this marine for a little while now. I'm aware you've been posting updates quite often. That's cool. The back banner still needs some work, but just looking for general feedback before I move on to trying to make everything as crisp as possible. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to give. Like, I don't know about you guys, but this is pretty dang good. He's been sweating this a lot. The back banner could be cleaner. This is one of those times where I would go like, yeah, just use a decal and then paint over it red, or like add to it. Okay. You're washing out your reds a little bit. Or a lot in some cases. So what I mean by that, let's look at them. Is that now? Wait, what? Did I say is the heraldry off? What's wrong with the heraldry? Do they not use the red stripe on the toppest parts? I don't get it. I'm not super familiar with red Crimson Fist heraldry, but it looks. No. Oh, Metalovich, that is incorrect. Crimson Fist veterans, both hands are red. Oh. Get out of here. Don't try and out heraldry me. I know my heraldry. All right, so Yeah, so when it comes to, I think you're over highlighting a little, especially the red, like maybe the blue a little bit too. So things start to look a little washed out. So what I would do is I would take a nice dark color like this, and I would try and bring some of the color back, right? So what we want to do is use like some kind of ink glaze or contrast paint or something that can, they can just like darken some parts a little bit. And it's like you're losing a little bit of like the like red, the like deep red in the midtones because you're trying to really push the light. So it ends up getting like really washed out. Even like up top here, it's like it's starting to get a little washed out because you highlight so much that you lose a bit the color. Okay? I don't know much. I do know that. I also know I like the thing I don't know is like what they do for their like helmet stripes. That stuff. I don't know how their helmet heraldry works. Like I don't know what their like shoulder heraldry is either, like if they change that. In fact, I think that could look pretty cool. Like maybe now that I think about it, like might help split it up a little bit, but I'm just looking. I'm just testing. Don't take this as fact. Just seeing like how this would look if I like that. Nah. Yeah, the other thing is, yeah, because you have a tendency to, like, I like the color of the banner. See, like, you didn't overdo the highlighting on the banner. I don't think you did it too much on the legs, too. Generally, like, I think this is pretty nice. I think the red is the biggest offender of, like, where you were just, like, gotta push the light, and it just became really washed out. There is a bit, and I think maybe we could fix it a little in some spots. Like Crimson Fists are supposed to be like a slightly darker blue. He feels a little ultramarine right now, shade of blue instead of like Crimson Fist navy blue. So maybe we could come back and just like tone some areas down a little bit more into like a more navy blue. And this is just like a filter. You just, filter some darker blue over the top just to tone it down a tiny bit. So now you can see just how like washed out his face looks, right? Because of adding that more dark blue. So maybe we need to do a little bit to his face too. So yeah, just try and be careful not to like push some of the highlights too much, Like where it's so like you push so much contrast that everything gets blown out. Like this feels blown out now. But I think it's pretty neat. I don't know if this is centered or not. Like so I take this and then I go like this, right? So you're trying to find like the visual center. I think your symbol might be off center a little bit. This is when I like to take a Yeah, I did it on the cape for in one of the videos where I show like this is when I would straight up just like use a big like tank decal and put the decal on. Also, your visual centering here and here is off, right? Unless you wanted to put like a scroll on the bottom or something. I don't draw, like, I don't plan out stuff very often, but when I do banners and things, like, I would sketch it out first, like, even on just like a sheet of paper to get like a rough idea of what you want to do. Yeah, like, visually centering this is when I would use like one of the big Crimson Fist decals or whatever, like the one with the cool like laurels on the side or something, and then you could do like a, you know, you do the one with like the big laurel because it would match the fact he's wearing laurels, right? So you could do like the big tank one with the laurels, and then have the fist inside it, and then do like a cool gold like brocade freehand sort of thing on the laurels, which would look pretty neat. But yeah, using the, and you just overlay the decal like right on top, and then cut off the part here that you don't use, and then you matte varnish it and paint over it, right? I think that could look pretty neat. The text and stuff is all quite good. Maybe there's a little bit of, you could sharpen up some of the darkness here, like parts are getting a little dark and a little close together, like try and clean up around the chain because the dark line is like very sharp. But I'm mostly nitpicking. I think you might be overdoing the leather texture a little bit too. Like, you don't need to make it this spotted. Sometimes less is more on this, you know? Like 3 scratches sometimes on like the belt can be enough. Otherwise it just becomes noise. And you start to lose like the general shape of it. Iga-san. Thank you. Thank you for following. Okay, so that would be my recommendation to you, is like really just like, you know, bring some color back, right? And when you darken some of these areas like this, like if we look, you can really see that the like the highlights you do have actually kind of pop out even more, right? Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a few minutes, and then we will continue on. So, be back in just a few. Hello, I'm back. All right, who's next? That was 6'2" koala. Warwolf. We looked at this one. Hey Eric, thank you for the your last feedback. It was really helpful. I reworked some aspects of my piece, like the blade, and removed the prominent cast shadow. Instead, I sculpted some pieces for the storytelling: a broken plate, a dirty rug, and a spilled goatskin. Do you have any new remarks? I'm sorry I didn't have time to take a picture of the proper conditions. I also included the picture from the last time for reference. I mean, I think the base is definitely better. Sword looks pretty good. Not bad, not bad. Like the little scorpions. All right, so I'm gonna real quick, because I don't particularly like reviewing the same piece too off like much. But a couple little things that I think could help you out here is there's some area now where you need some darker shadow, some lining, you know. Would really help to separate elements and just give like a cleaner look, right? So I'm going to make sure that some of these recesses are nice and shaded. Like when you have something like this, right, you need to make sure that these little straps are readable, right? There should be like a dark shadow running between this. Like even something like here, right? This dark shadow of the wrist going into the wrap, like you don't really have. Okay, so these little shadows really help to create separation between materials. Like on the face here, right? You should have like a nice dark line to kind of separate the head from the scarf. Even like pushing the shadow a little more. Like around the mouth, it's very difficult to see some of the details. So you need some of these darker shadows in order to, yeah, create separation between elements in order to be able to more easily visually distinguish like materials from one another, right? Like where you have large sections of the fabric, right? This is like one section, this is another section, okay? Where they sort of tuck in under each other. You should have some dark shadow in order to show that these are like two separate pieces, okay? Something like this, right? As this tucks in under this. Will really help to create some like further definition to these parts. I think you did a pretty good job on the necklace, but there was, yeah, some other pieces that like you're just going a little too light, or you don't quite see the sort of overall shape, right? Even some pieces like his turban, right? We need to create some darker shadow to create like separation between the larger forms. Hi everyone, Smudge. Yeah, we're doing feedback. Feedback! If you are a Twitch sub and you join the Discord and you link your Discord with your Twitch account, you will get access to the Feedback Friday channel where you can submit photos for short feedback. Okay, so that's the big thing for me now, is to just like create some further separation. All right, the sword is much better. Ooh, all right. Gino Curiero. Hi Eric. I'm mainly looking for feedback on the OSL. After a bunch of tries, I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it. The other areas in ambient light aren't finished yet. Okay. I am not so sure. As soon as I stop the stream, you can go back and watch the replay also. Okay. I've talked about this before with OSL. But the number one important thing to OSL is light can only add, and then light is directional. All right? So, when we're talking about the red here, okay, we need to consider the red as like the main light source, right? Let's just grab the brighter red. Okay, so the light's kind of coming in from this direction, or maybe even further to the right, but that's okay, right? So it's like top right, right? This red would hit on top of this shoulder. It would hit here. All right. Smudge. Thanks for the tier 1. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so you need to consider like what's above, right? Like, I don't know where this green is coming from. Okay, so first and foremost, consider the lighting direction. Okay, the main light source. All right. Then, this is quite complex, but I've talked about it before. When you're dealing with like this, like edge highlight here doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for there to be like red on top of him. If you're assuming the smoke, right, is the light source, where's the like light coming from? Okay, let's grab this like light green. Okay. The light is going to come from like here, okay? And this light shoots out in, let me do it on another layer. Oh, it is on another layer. Okay, so the light radiates out from this area, okay? And then as it gets further away, it gets weaker. But red and green are not, like red absorbs green light. So when you're dealing with a green on a red surface, the only places you're going to see that green is where it is a reflection of the light source. So based off of the material, you will get more, you will get like green reflections of the smoke. Okay. So let's take the dark red and get rid of this because this doesn't work. All right. So only where you would have green reflections. Let's just turn this layer off. So anything like here, this is all going to be red still. This is going to be red still. This is all going to be red still. That. Pepperoni Pop. Hello. Thanks for following. Do I post the whip in feedback requests? Oh, no. All right, thanks. Thanks, Richard, for explaining. Okay, so you need to consider the color of the material, the lighting direction, right? Like here, you're still going to have red. Like it doesn't, if your darkest shadow is red, you're still just going to have red, right? Then you get reflections of the light source. So like under here, maybe under here on this bottom line, right? Underneath. But then up top, like this is going to get a red highlight. This would get red highlights, red highlight. I don't know where the red would be here, somewhere like this, I think. Okay. So green highlights based on the viewer, like the reflection position. Then you can do stuff like this, where maybe you get like a little green here, right? So we're trying to find areas where that green is gonna like literally, it's not like a direct light, it's a reflection of a light source. Hi, painted by rock. Hello. Okay, you get it on like the gold, you'll get it on the leather. Okay. So more about the the reflectivity of the material than it is the like overall light, you know. It's different if his armor was like white or you know, a color that would reflect this greenish tone, right? Something like a yellow armor or whatever. It starts to function differently, but because his armor is red, you don't get just like a normal diffused lighting from the green light source, you know? So anywhere where you think you might get like a literal highlight of the green, that's where you want to put the OSL. Like honestly, even here, like this probably comes up too high. Okay, makes sense. Maybe, maybe not. It's a complicated subject. This is not an easy thing. Oliver, thanks for the tier 1. Right. Even on like the metal materials, like on the gun, like metal is shiny, so it's going to reflect that green from further away. Like you'll get it on parts of the gun and everything. But yeah, like which one looks more natural to you guys, this or this? Okay. Anyways, all right. Nope, not here. Lack of good taste. Here, curious to hear your thoughts on the lighting. The sun is supposed to be in the top right somewhere. What am I looking at? It's so... Sorry, it's kind of blurry. Top right? Okay. There's a lot of gray and like, so if you guys look at this, right? It's pretty hard to see there's like no focus, right? Anyone else? Anybody see that? How or don't see that? It's, yeah, it really needs like better focus, like somehow to separate what I guess is like a commissar or something. It's like a commissar sitting in a chair. It's also like very heavily visually weighted on the right side. Yeah, this cat right here is the main focal point right now. Like everything is just like, look at this cat. Where it should be, look at this guy, or the interaction between the cat and this guy. Is that a squirrel? There's a squirrel there. I'm trying to consider what to do exactly to improve the focus on this without like making big changes to the figure, you know? All right, let's just play with the light, right? So you said top right is where the light should be coming from. So what I think we want to see is more like there probably needs to be more light on the chair in order to like silhouette this better, right? If you're saying that the light is coming from this direction, we need something to like silhouette this out a little bit more in order to inform the viewer like that this is here, right? So even just something like that, and then we can do some light on him in ways, I don't know, it's hard to see exactly what's happening, but like picking out some of these edges to show the light coming in from the top right is really going to help. I'm just doing little like dots on each rivet to show the light is up here. Okay. Even just something like that really helps to like silhouette that, right? Then probably want to highlight some of these cracks to make the lighting direction a little more obvious. Like the cat has a lot of light on it. And then we could do some stuff like this where we make the rocks near him like a little brighter. Okay, trying to like utilize the visual hierarchy of everything to push the focus towards him. And then I'm going to do the opposite by lowering the shadows in some of the other areas, and I'll use like a dark green or something. Okay. So we're gonna like reduce the light on the lower right side or the lower left side of things in order to make it so that well, that was too much, but make it so that these parts are like not as interesting. Right, and even like all down here, like we can reduce this by quite a bit. do stuff like this, right? Silhouette the cat more, reduce the light back here more. I think that helps, right? So, but like this, lowering all this, and then bringing out the light here where you need in order to draw more attention to the guy. Okay. I think this might be crazy, but I think this piece might be better if you took this cat, the cat here, and moved him on top of the chair. So we're just gonna make that as a mark to say, put that cat there. That'll help, again, more focus on the chair instead of the background. Okay, all right. Rude. Hey Eric, finished this today and would love your feedback on it. You might see it at FSMC even if you aren't judging standard. I fixed the cracks and the waves in the base. Okay. Hi, Google. This is a personal nitpick. Are you guys ready for a nitpick? I don't like this. I don't like doing this. You could do it sometimes, but it's too similar right now, and it actually causes there to be like a lack of definition between the sword and the hair. So I don't think it's helpful. I would get rid of it and just go like, yeah, it's reflecting the sky or something, you know? I get what you're trying to do and that it's supposed to be reflecting the hair, but it would probably be reflecting, unless it's at like the perfect angle, like I find it a bit distracting. I would also push the light on the sword a bit more on one side. Like we can use this brightness here in order to draw attention upwards towards the face. Like here, you guys look. Which one looks sharper, right? Like which one looks more defined? Like this where the sword like cuts right up to the hair, or the red where it's like, you know? So that's one thing I would consider. The other would just be like You probably need some more highlights on the hair. I feel like today's a... Is the theme of... Did we find the theme of today? Is the theme of today like focus? We found it. Normally we have a theme. Normally we end up having a bit of a theme for the Feedback Fridays, but I feel like today's theme is definitely visual focus. Okay, so we're going to push the light a little more on parts of the hair in order to, again, draw attention upwards. Probably need some more light on the face. Probably some more light on parts of the chest. Everything feels like pretty dark. I don't know if it's just the photo. This can always be like a bit hard to tell. Let's tone this down slightly so it's not like blown out. Maybe some more light like on the bandana just a little bit. What happened here? Marked that on accident. But even saying that, like for maybe a little light like on the shoulder. Okay. So all these things together, like we're trying to draw the eye upwards, you know? Okay, so let's look at the before and after, right? Like, kind of does it. I don't think you. I think the sword is probably like the main point of focus right now. Like the big reflection on the sword is the main focal point. Where I think if we fix that, give that some definition that moves the light up the sword closer to the face, and then just pushing more general light like on the upper parts is going to, yeah, pull the attention upwards where you want it, you know? It might be. I think everything is like a big contrast, and it could be the photo. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like the shadows are really dark, and it could just be the photo. So I don't want to speak too much on that. But yeah, it is very contrasty. Anyways, yeah, push the light, more focus, more. Show them where you want to see it, you know? All right, rescue down, we already did you. Luna. I generally consider this figure to be finished, but when I look at it, I don't like something, but I don't know what. Could you give me some advice? How many more do we have? A decent number. Okay. Let's see. What do we think? Hmm? All right, everybody. Let's do this, you know? Here we go again. We found it. We found it, guys. I think the hair's not bad. Okay. Now squint at your screen and tell me what you see. Don't squint that much, cool. Hair, yeah. It's just yep, exactly. Merson. It's just the values on the face are too low, right? So all you see is hair. So easy enough to fix, yeah. This is an easy fix. We got this. Okay. So let's work on it in black and white, and let's push some of the values a little bit here. So we want to push some light like here a little more. I want to push the light on her nose a bit. So we're just adding some light where we need in order to create more attention on the face. Okay. So now what do you see when we squint? Okay, so we have to push the light. All right. Got to push the light on the face in order to draw the focus where we want. Her skin's also quite pink, I'm noticing. So we probably want to adjust that a little bit. Now that we've added more light, it's like very red, so we probably want to add like a little bit more yellowish tones. Look how dark it was before. That's just changing the color slightly. I mean, it was so dark before. That's pushing it a lot. Like, I don't have to do it that much. I could go down even to 50% of what I did. And you can still see, like, just how much adding some light, right? Like, I way overdid it for demonstration. But you can see just, like, how pushing the values up can change the focus. Like the hair is so highly contrasted, and then the skin had like nothing before, right? Okay, so there we go. They could, yeah, we could come in and reduce some of the shadow on the top of the head, like, but I'm more just trying. Some of the hair shadows are quite dark, but I just wanted to demonstrate that like the face needed more light. All right. Oh, this is the one asking about latex. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and then we're going to talk about latex. Be right back. Hello. All right, I'm going to switch to this camera. Yeah, I went to go get my cat suit. No. And find, while I'm not on screen, something that I can show that's stream safe to show. Let me find a good picture of a GIMP suit. All right, here we found a picture that's stream appropriate enough. Go ahead and close this tab. All right, lady in a cat suit. So, the key thing to notice is just how sharp the highlights are, right? Like, look how extreme the highlight is, okay? So you're dealing with a material that is like super reflective. Even like in the armpit here, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see like the white reflection of the door and stuff. It's like really, really sharp. And the little folds in the wrist, right? See how like just how extremely white and shiny the reflection is, okay? Or like the little folds in the elbow, okay? So we're dealing with a material that's like ultra glossy, all right? Really, really glossy and shiny. So we have to paint the reflections in a way that represents the material. So we have to be really sharp with the reference, like with the material. Okay. So now go away, lady. I don't want to look at catsuit girl anymore. All right. So here, if we're trying to do her, I'm assuming the black, like the bodysuit, right? On the chest, and I assume on the stomach, right? So this is where you want to, like, really you need to paint it in a way where it's like pure, like sharp highlights, okay? And the thing to remember is like you have to So the first thing we're going to do is darken everything back down because we want it to be like a black. So there's just not enough sharpness to everything. So we're going to darken all of this back down. Okay. And then what is the light source? Where is the light source? These are things you have to consider if you're doing a like cyberpunk character like this. What other lights are in the scene? You know, do you have some secondary lights that are going to reflect in the black, but they're not enough to show in other parts of the figure, right? Like distant lights that might just be like a sign or something that aren't strong enough to affect the other materials might reflect in the in latex, right? So something like on her chest, right? If we're doing this, you're going to have these like extremely sharp like highlights, okay? Much more than even this. And then you're going to get them like here, right? They're going to like show up in a way that is very, very, what is going on? Oh, I'm on multiply. That makes sense, right? So you're going to get these sorts of highlights like this that show up and create these like super sharp reflections, okay? Even like her hip bones, anything like on her stomach. I don't know if these are exactly right. It's very dependent on the positioning of the character, the figure, right? So you get something like this that creates these like ultra sharp reflections, okay? And then you might, to create something more interesting, you might even introduce like these like cyberpunk kind of colors that like maybe there's another light source that's going to create like a small reflection here and here and here, right? So you create like a secondary light that's not going to reflect in other parts of the arm, like in the other parts of the body, but they might show up in the latex, right? We can play around even more and do something like this where it's like, okay, maybe there's another light over here somewhere that this reflects. Right, so you can play around with it a lot, but it's basically the idea is to create like some sort of material that is like ultra shiny. That's okay. Right, like there could be a magenta light here that's coming from this way and another green light that's coming from this way, and maybe they'll reflect in the metallic, but they won't. But the white light source is clearly like the main light source, so it's going to be brighter and more intense than any of the other parts, okay? So yeah, you get something along those lines. Makes sense. Hope that makes sense. Higher contrast, sharper highlights. That's the key to painting a latex material. Fred, big thanks for your feedback on this little scoundrel. I've repainted the face, had fun doing it, and find it way better now. Same question from last time. How can I push it further? It's the last time you'll see him in the Feedback Fridays, I promise. It's pretty good. Okay, can you push it further? I mean, just make parts smoother, make parts even more defined. Probably the hair could use some more texture. Like parts of the ferret could be more refined. Like painting smaller, but like overall the actual figure works quite well. So I guess no airbrush. Yeah, you don't want to use the airbrush on to represent latex. Like it's not controlled enough. Maybe if you were painting something huge, you could, right? But not for something really small. Yeah, I mean, like just painting smaller. Like, I think it's quite nice as is. Like the shadows and stuff are all pretty good. Light placement seems pretty nice, but yeah, there can always be like more crisp. But I think the general lighting is quite good. Yep, don't have much to say, to be honest. Move on. Probably some more detail around the mouth. Here, I'll real quick, like draw a couple things just to show. Yeah, so the hair could use like a bit more of a highlight, right? A little sharper. Not that much. I'll tone it down, but it's fine. So like you can be cleaner on some areas, so it's like thinner dark lines. Maybe push the highlight on the hair a little bit more. Not too much. I'll tone this back. Like, even just like making his teeth show up a little bit, just to give him a little smile, right? And then, you know, being smaller on the, I think the white in the eyes of the ferret could be a little bigger. Maybe push the light on the ferret a little close, a little whiter. Highlight in the ear. Highlight on the metal. And then stuff like this is just like cleanup, right? You just want to make that nice and small. Right? You see, I can see like, I get you're trying to do a sort of cast shadow here, but like this, the black line is like too dark, or too thick, I should say. So it's little things like that. And it's not like a big difference, but it's like just a little bit more. Eric, do you post the edited photos and just, yes, normally. I think I forgot to last time, just because I was busy with a bunch of other stuff. but I will go back and post those also. I think I still need to upload that video, so you guys might get 2 Feedback Fridays uploaded to YouTube back to back. All right. I don't like talking about the same models over and over again. Hello, I started this MCP figure just for fun one afternoon at LVO and finished it up last night. I'm looking for general impressions and suggestions. Maybe we talked about this before, but like, what's the purpose, you know? Like, what's the intention behind the figure? Is it for gaming? If it's for gaming, like, it's pretty good. Right? Like, Murph, I don't have again, this is one of those things, it's like, I don't have a ton to say, because it's just like, does it do what it's meant to do? Like, you could paint the dark lines in between the fingers. You could, you know, there's always like more refinement to do, but I think like overall the general lighting and stuff is quite good. The rock is bad. Like, I don't see a whole lot to be like, oh, you could push this so much further, right? Like, it's fine. But yeah, this is not good. Just simplify this. Especially if the light is coming in from based on like, sort of coming in from the top right, like, that should be darker. This should be slightly darker. Then yeah, like come in, try and like define some things a little bit more. And we kind of talked about this, but this is an opportunity here to show this again. But like, this is where you can really create some like sharpness to the metal by creating like a very strong contrast between that like upper plane and lower plane, right? So you can have very sharp like metallic edges here just to show how extreme that is. And then my other recommendation would be to like do something more interesting with the sword, where you have maybe like a bigger highlight on this sort of top edge, because this is like a pretty important view here. So you can do something more interesting with the blade and try and create some more light on this side. Right, you create that sharpness here through definition. So putting a black next to putting a black next to a white can make it look very, very shiny. Even like something like this, you can like push the highlights a little more on some of the metal here, right? I think he did a pretty good job, but yeah, I mean, overall the piece is good. Like even stuff like this, like just these little dots can help. Just clean up. You know, you do these small marks. Okay, so that's what I see. But perfectly good gaming figure, you know? Sam, hey Eric, I'm working on my Orktober piece and I could use your feedback on it. It's still somewhat of a work in progress when it comes to blending in areas, but I'm trying to keep it more sketchy vibe. Okay. I mean, it looks pretty good to me. There's like there's always like little stuff. Like what? So like overall, I think the general lighting is quite good, but then there's stuff like this where you kind of like forgot to put maybe some highlight here, right? It's like a couple spots you sort of missed on the hair. You can always like paint some of this a little sharp so you get this sort of effect where it's like the hair sort of growing into the or out of the scalp, right? It's not just like a hard line there. That's like super tiny marks, you know, to create that kind of effect where it's like you don't have that like sharp edge to the hairline. You have like, see if I can show it on myself, right? You know, it's like jagged, so you can see like the hair grow, so you see parts of the scalp, so it's like, you know, see little lines. It's not just like a like sharp line, you know. The other thing would be to like try and soften this out a little bit, because I don't understand quite why the ears are so red unless it's like subsurface scattering or backlight, you know. So maybe that's a bit much. Then there's these sorts of things, okay? So this is where you go like, all right, so these are like little tiny volumes where maybe some light actually, because of how pig-nosed he is, like you might actually get some light up in here, right? And then you can also have things like this happen, where as this curves back around, this sort of joins in together with the skin. So you create like, it's not such a extreme transition here. You have a bit more of a natural transition. Because it's not quite like a human nose where it sticks out. It's more like pig-nosed. Oh, hi, Sam. Yeah, I mean, you don't really have like a backlight, so the subsurface scattering in the ear doesn't make a ton of sense. Okay, so sometimes you even get like, as that nostril sort of comes around, like the light will actually go up the nostril if it's pig-nosed like that. Probably a little more highlight on the tongue if it's supposed to be kind of wet. Some of the teeth, right? Like you can push the light on the teeth a little bit more. They're a big focal area. Maybe push the light in the eyes a little bit more. You let you can kind of make them sort of whitish and let if they're supposed to be glowing, and let the glow sell the color as opposed to just letting the, like leaving the eye actually yellow. You probably get more of that on top. Eggs overrated. 18 months, a year and a half. Thank you. And then you need to soften out the glow a little bit here where there's like highlight, because these two add together. So you don't really want too much on the lower eyelid, right? It should be more soft, and then let more light appear on the upper eyelid. So these should kind of blend together a little bit more. Some of these are probably, some of his cheekbones are probably too dark also. Like round this over a little bit, round this over a little bit. Oops. And then, yeah, just connect things, you know? Eric, last question. How do I do bounce lights on his chin? Look at the photo. You see this? Can you see the bounce light happening? That's exactly what you do. Like, you can see it's very subtle, right? It's like super subtle. So you take a color like this, okay? This is like kind of purplish gray, and you can exaggerate it a little bit. And you just paint the light from underneath, right? So it's not as strong as like a main light source, but you can kind of see it there already. So you just paint that light, like you flip the model upside down and paint from below. Anyways, yep. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Next. Gaian Spirit. I need some help with the face on this Titania microbust work in progress before all the glazing. Who better to ask than one of the most experts on painting miniature faces? Thanks for the feedback. Look at this big brain doing the collage all in one picture so I can look at all the different angles at the same time. Pretty good. But I'd say let's do this real quick just to look at the values, see how they're working, because I feel like some of the values might be slightly off here. It can be quite difficult when you're working in sort of weird colors, you know. So yeah, you can kind of see there's like a little bit of weirdness with the nose and the cheekbones. Like the cheeks are like feel really dark, and the nose is like a little too stuck out of the face, right? This can often happen where the nose like starts to look like really outlined. And that happens just from like you need to use more midtones on the top, like on these parts, and more deeper shadows underneath. All right. So we need to, I'm just going to use like a, what colors are you using? Okay. It's like a purpley shadow. Does that make sense? Let's move this up top. All right, so what we want to do is we want to push the shadow in parts a little more. So it's like under the nose is more shadowed. Under the jaw is more shadowed. You got these mostly right. These are like pretty correct. This should be pretty shadowed. This should be pretty shadowed. Like this is good here. And then as the face, like you kind of shadow the jawline, which is quite nice. Now you can see like some of the face feels a little too light. So what we want to do is come up and then this, readjust some of this a little bit. Like if the light's coming from above, this probably shouldn't be so dark. And then I think people have a tendency to like overdo the light here, but the light is a little more, especially on women, the light tends to be a little more like this, right? It's like this sort of shape. So that you get, what we're really looking for is like this shape. Okay. So unless she's like like really smiling, the nasal fold is not going to be quite so strong. So you can actually connect these a little bit here. Okay, let's turn this off just so we can see what's going on. Right, so as you were adding, yeah. So the problem is as you were adding like this tonal variation, let me now make a new, just normal layer. As you were trying to add like tonal variation or even do this sort of cast shadow here with the pink, right? Based on the light looking like it's kind of coming from the top left, the sort of midtones got away from you a little bit, so we need to come back to a more tone like this and like soften in between. Okay, so we want to reduce this a little bit, so it's that orange is like, it can be very difficult to see the values when you're dealing with like colors, so I think it's sometimes important to like eliminate the color so that you can see the shape, the light like a bit more. All right. Then if you're trying to do like a light from the top right like this, we need to reduce all of this. So this is probably all a little too dark. So let's maybe use a color like this. And come up a little bit. And then if you're trying to do a shadow on the side of the nose, we need to use like the actual shadow color. Okay, so if this is your shadow value and you're trying to do like a kind of cast shadow thing, you'll get it. You can get a cast shadow, but we need to adjust the shape slightly. And make sure that not just the nose is shadowed, but also like the appropriate side of the face is in shadow, right? So that means that this side of the face is going to be darker because the light is coming in more from this side, okay? So one side of the face will be much more in shadow than the other if you're trying to cast a shadow like diagonally like that. And then you can start using some mid-tone to further define why one side is more shadowed than the other. And then actually push the light a little more on the side of the face that's indirect, or not indirect, but in the direct light. And now that you have the light coming in like slightly this way, now you can use, if you want to give that little shape like this, that this side of the face, because the light is coming in from an angle, might get a little bit of that fold there, right? But it would be like a mid-tone shadow, not a like really strong shadow like over here, right? This shadow over here is going to be much stronger because it's coming in from the side, right? This, if you lean this way, right, this shadow here shows up more because the light's coming in from this way, right? You can see it, and this one's weaker. And then the same if I go like this, right? So now this one's gone, and this one's here. Okay? Yeah, I think Rembrandt, like, it is, like, somewhere in between. It's, like, halfway in between Rembrandt and Butterfly. I don't typically love Rembrandt lighting on female faces. It can sometimes look a little too dramatic, you know, but I think this is good, right? So it's like a slightly off center. Okay, so all these things, these two things combine, right? Like correcting the shape, correcting the values here so that the tonal variation that you've added to the cheeks isn't like too dark of a value, and then fixing the shape face a little more. Okay, and you can see now with the black and white, like the difference. Hi, 2A. Yeah. That's the big one, though. Okay. Winston P. Smith. I'd be grateful for feedback on Belthanos. I painted him for my Sylvaneth army. He's done apart from the weapon and the feet, where he'll be glued onto the giant beetle he's riding. I'm planning on blue-green for the beetle, which I hope would complement the magenta on Belthanos. I mean, what do you want to know? It's for your army, right? Like, I love when you guys send me stuff that's like, hey, I painted this for my army. It's really good. What can I do? It's like, I don't play with it. Roll dice. I mean, yeah, like if you were like, oh, I'm painting this for competition or something, like, I mean, it's good. Like, it's already good. Um, I guess if I had like one comment, like one big comment for you would be to like your metallic is kind of weak. What I mean by that is like kind of weak in contrast, right? It's sort of low contrast, so we could we could push this a little bit more. Mostly this is a similar problem. Like if we look at the value here, like look where this is. Okay. Like this is you're in like a mid-tone right now. Right? So we want some like deeper colors, okay? A little deeper, a little more saturated. So also remember that it's not necessarily the bottom of a shape that's going to get like, the bottom tends to be the ground reflection. So on a cylinder, the horizon tends to be a little more darker. Here's another thing when you're painting these like dots or gems or rivets or whatever, you have to consider the angle of each rivet, right? So different rivets are going to reflect differently. So this bottom rivet might reflect more of the ground, where this top rivet might reflect just like the regular one, and then this center one will reflect more like the horizon, and then this top one is going to reflect differently. So each one of these are going to reflect in a different way. Because if you like add them all together, they would make a sphere, right? So then I would consider like okay, so the next thing I would probably add like a little more color in here, some kind of like cold yellow green kind of tone. Oops, go away. You could also introduce some more like micro reflections, so you create like secondary reflections by leaving a little gap or whatever, right? You can give the impression of some kind of environment like a forest or whatnot. Then you can play around with like greenish style reflections in certain parts, like maybe there's grass or the beetle or whatever is like reflecting in the metal, so you'll get some kind of environmental reflections in parts of the gold. Right, so yeah. make your animim more interesting. Don't just paint like a single reflection. Try and do like a few reflections and you'll get a much more exciting sort of effect. Like look at the difference now between this and this up here. Like this doesn't even look like, that doesn't even look like metal. Right? So. Okay. For me, that would be like the big thing. Because all the other stuff is nice. See too, I was saying like add some purple to the blue gray. I mean, you did. You could probably come back and like add some more in some certain areas. This like cold kind of purple. Some areas like here, maybe like you want like saying just add like a little bit more purple into the shadows, I think. Which you've done on sort of the lower parts, but maybe you could come back and try and it looks like you painted a lot of the gray other than the highlights with like maybe with an airbrush. So you could filter some purple back on top to add like a little bit more visual consistency. Yep. It's good. Richard. Hey Eric, I'm calling this done. I'm looking for feedback to take to my next project. What is that shadow from his face? What's up with his jacket? I like the actual jacket, by the way. I'm just like, what happened to his sweater? Why is it just black? Did you paint the wood's good too. X is pretty nice. Yeah, so this is just like a mistake. This is way too dark of a value for white material. It should be like something like you're using over here, right? If you need to pick like a shadow value for a white material, okay? And that shadow value for a whiter or cream color material might be something like this, you know? But then you have to remember like this stuff is all very textured, so you're gonna get some of that like in here, right? You're not gonna get like a super, maybe slightly darker. Like this shadow should be showing up like in parts of this wool, especially as it just starts to curve away from the light, and you're gonna see some of these little bumps and things like more clearly as it gets to the, like right as it starts to near the Terminator. You're gonna get more of those little bumps showing up as they like they just get into the perfect spot where they're like really clear that they're like parts of their shadow really start to show up. Right, like to do an example, right? Like my fingers this way don't have much shadow. Okay, so if I go like this and make a fist, right, I'm trying to get at the, right? I don't really have much shadow like on my fingers other than between them. But as I rotate like this, you can see just between like this angle and this angle, how much more shadow like I start to get on my fingers as they get like into that perfect position where now they're starting to really hit the terminator, and then like I can even hide some under other parts, right? Under other fingers. So this terminator on this finger is very obvious. This one's very obvious. This one's very obvious. But if I go like this, now they're basically gone, right? So when you're dealing with the sheep wool, right, it's very bumpy. So at certain angles that that shadow and terminator is going to show up like a lot more on some of the little bumps and things. And then yeah, do something with the jacket, like or the not jacket, but the whatever. Like it's toned down way too far. So would you select the direction of the light based on what would give you the most interesting shadows? Typically, like it's not yeah. So it's not about like interesting shadows, right? Sometimes I like get specific shapes that I find very interesting. I'm not necessarily thinking about like the light and the shadow shape. I'm thinking about them together and how they define the form, right? So when I hold my hand like this, right, there's not a lot of form here other than like this plane and this plane being clearly separate. But just doing like that creates like a much clearer form for these, where I still have this top plane and this bottom plane, but now I start to have some form like in between the fingers also, right? It's the same when you get into like knuckles, right? Like I don't have super defined knuckles, but the difference between it's easier to do it this way. Like the difference between this and this, right, starts to really define some of these knuckle forms more. So you have a more clear form and shape to the object. So the answer is yes, you get more interesting shadows as a result, but not the goal, right? The goal is to define the form. And the result is a more interesting interplay between light and shadow. If that makes sense. Yeah, that face is nice. And the hair's good. I like the hair. Kit. Eric, almost finished with this guy. Just need to do a bit of cleanup, soften a few blends, and paint the missing details. I'd love to get your overall feedback on painting this one for SMC and tried to capture a bright sunlight look. Okay. We've got two more after this. To mention in my post, he looks a bit cross-eyed in the photos, but I swear he's not. Looks totally fine in real life. The shadows around the nostrils also appear a bit light in these pictures. So thinking about glazing some Indian yellow paint to make the sunlight effect more obvious. I mean, sunlight is pretty white depending on what time of the day it is. So you can say sunlight effect, but it's like what time of day, you know. Yeah, I don't know if it's just like the photograph. I don't think it's the photograph, but I'm curious how like dark some of these parts are. Um, I think he just doesn't have enough light on the face, like based on this, right? Like where we need light. Let there be light. So when I'm thinking about a face or whatever, yeah, I'm thinking quite a lot of this is uh, based on like this down here. Like a lot of this is the photograph. Really? Okay. Um. Anyways, when I'm thinking about the light, right? I'm thinking about like I need the first thing we need to do is to really define like the planes of the face. So when you do any sort of direct sunlight, you need to consider like left and right, right? Like light and shadow. That's the most important thing. Light and shadow. That's the only thing I care about. Okay? So if his face is in light, and then this part, right? We'll grab like a color like this or something, right? And then all of this is in shadow. Okay, then you get bounce lights and other stuff, but defining this first makes it clear like what the light direction is. Okay? So one side of it, because his head's tilted like this, you can see, if his head is like slightly tilted and the light's coming in from a certain direction, you're going to have more light on one side of his face than the other. Okay, so this is what I mean by when I was just saying, like, when I choose a lighting direction, I'm first searching for the form, right? I'm searching to define the shape of the overall shape of the face first and foremost, and then I can work on like smaller elements. But you can see like right here, just two colors, right? Or like just two values. One, this face doesn't, it's like I don't see a whole lot of the face, right? I don't see a lot of like overall shape to the face, where this, like, okay, I can clearly see like the side plane of the face, the shape of the nose, right? And then the light plane of the face. Then you start working in intermediate tones, right? So you grab something in between, whatever color that is, and you start softening the planes where you need to. Okay. Yeah. You probably have some light creeping into some parts that shouldn't be getting light then. Like, let's go back to the example, right, where I was painting. like you had the side of the face in shadow, that means like if his temple and stuff is in shadow, and we can darken it even more to create even more contrast, right? Like if you have the side of his face in shadow over here, like more of his nose and stuff should be in shadow also. Right, like this is good. This is good. It's all quite good. You get, and then you start introducing, yeah, more midtones on the light side, right? You can push the nuances and all the little tiny details and stuff, but getting that general shape in, right, is what's really gonna like give the overall shape. Right? Okay. But cool. And just try and make sure you're being consistent, because it looks like some of the light on the leg here is maybe slightly different than the arm, like, so just check to be your being really consistent with like this light is on top, you know, wherever, whatever direction it's supposed to be. I mean, you can. I was just picking a color. Like, that doesn't necessarily, I'm not like saying do that. I just picked a color to show it. Smudge. Hello all, here's my current work in progress. Crade. I'm having loads of fun doing this, and I'm really trying to push myself. This is one of my entries for comps next year. I'm trying to claw my way to standard prompt. Okay. Hi, Smudge. I like the armor. It's pretty cool. It's the face is painted, but not nearly done. So it seems like you mostly just worked on the armor. I mean, I think the breastplate is quite good. I think there's some... I mean, seems quite nice to me. Like, I like the lighting position and everything. Seems quite nice. I think the one that's... This is a thing that people get wrong a lot. So, you have a tendency to put all of your variation, like, of dark shadows surrounding the rivets. Okay? But this is one big shape regardless of the rivets or not. Right? So, and regardless of like the thing being on top of it, it's the same form. It's just lifted off slightly, right? It's like a piece of trim. So it's really not a different form than any of the rest of it. So if you're using this darker color here, then this shadow makes sense, right? But where is this highlight coming from? This is all quite dark down here, you know? So if your main highlight is here, then yeah, you would get highlights on the like individual rivets and on the edge, but you don't need to like start tossing in extra highlights for seemingly no reason, you know. Like treat it as a single shape, then you can define the edge, right? So you get the edge catching more light or whatever. You can play around with some of these like warmer oranges and stuff in here just to make it fit more. Like I don't see any dark there. So other than like the actual like very edge of the rivet, like the rivet should be clear, and then it's just another shape like that breaks up the overall shape. So even though there's a rivet there, like the trim shouldn't be broken up based on the rivet positioning, you know? And then this, as this comes up and then this cuts out slightly, this here shares the same plane as basically what's going on here. So you should reflect the same. So anytime you have planes that are similar in orientation, you should have similar reflections. Hi, Dom. Right? Makes sense? So, it's all, anytime yeah, metallics in general, it's like, you're just looking for, like, where shapes are the same, right? That's really all there is to it. And then placing the highlights in a way where they match. Then if you want, you can add like a little flare by maybe putting another little highlight down here, like that lip of this like maybe bends out slightly and it catches light again or something. But like keep the overall shape simple. I think you might be overdoing this a little bit too, where like maybe this highlight is like a little too much. Maybe it should let like one of them be the brightest. You don't need to make all three like super bright. Okay. I hope that helps. Yeah, just really like when you're doing it, just look for anywhere. Like first, the most important thing is like simplify the shapes, right? Like ignore all the crap on top. Like ignore this. If this wasn't here, what shape would this be? It would be like one big cylinder. If these weren't here, right? If you got rid of all of these, right? What shape is this? It's like a big, and then there wasn't this cutout. Like it's one big sphere, right? What shape is this, right? If these weren't overlaid over top of it, this is like one shape that goes all the way across like that, right? So the same with the rivets. Like the rivets is the easy example to say like they're just a thing that exists on top. Well, you can say the same for all of this stuff where you just simplify and then add detail as needed. Alizarian, hello. I hope I'm not too late to sneak this one in. Lucky you. This needs some general tidying up, so any feedback is welcome. Okie dokie. So I think what's happening here I like the colors. I like the ambience. What the heck was that? Oops. Undo. Yeah, I like the colors. I like the ambience, but I think this is a good, and the value separation is quite good. Honestly, like the areas of the focus is quite nice. Like clearly the skin, maybe the hair is a little lost in terms of value with the all the greens and blues, but it has some nice color contrast, so it's not that bad. The skin also has some nice is like really clearly lighter, so we get good separation between elements here. I think what I'm missing a little bit, and this is almost like I'd like to see it from another angle, but I'm losing the shape a little. What I mean by that is like, this is a nice shadow here, right? You have this cast shadow. Oops. You have this cast shadow from the arm, like going across her torso. But then I don't really see that like anywhere else. So it's like, where is the shadow? Like, what is the exact lighting direction? Should the arm shadow come up here more? How can we silhouette some things a little bit more to create a little more shape? Like, should this be a little darker, right? Like this, as we round away from the light, like creating a bit more shadow tones in order to just read some of the shapes a little bit more. I'm not quite getting some of the volume that I'd like to see specifically from her skin, right? So this is a case where like if you bring the light in maybe slightly more from the top right, we can create just a little bit more shape to her her hand. And based on this shadow here, like under here, like that means that this should be quite shadowed. This should be quite shadowed, right? And then you can start doing cool stuff like playing around with these like lighter teal kind of cool colors that act as like bounce lights, right? So the light hits the water and it starts to create a bounce light to add some light is meant to be top left. Okay, well, same difference, right? Same principle. I'm not gonna redraw it all. Right, but you can start to do stuff like this where you can like add in these sorts of bounce lights and stuff that can make these things more interesting, you know? So we get like a little more overall shape to her. Because I think what's happening right now is like we just don't quite have, I'm going to put this under here. We just don't quite have enough like form to her at the moment. And I think that would go a long way, right? Because there's a lot going on and you want to see some of the shape here. Okay. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Cool. So, thanks, guys, for submitting all those. There will not be a Feedback Friday for a little while because I will be in Europe. So, thank you all. I hope you have enjoy the convention season. If you're going into any of the shows, good luck to you. And let's see who we can raid into.